hurt. God, it hurt. But the pain was cleaner now. Not the kind that consumed, but the kind that healed by burning. Welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a tale. Weeks passed, and no one from home called to ask if she was okay. No one asked if she was eating well, or if the clinic had been stressful. Their silence was heavy, not born of worry, but of waiting. Waiting for the money to stop flowing. Waiting for her to break. One Saturday evening, as the sky turned orange and purple, Amara made a decision. She would test them. Not out of revenge, but because she needed to know, to strip away every illusion that still tied her heart to theirs. So she dialed her mother's number. Mama answered almost immediately, voice bubbling with fake cheer. "Ah, Amara, my daughter, you finally remembered your mother. I was beginning to think Abuja swallowed you." Amara smiled faintly. "Good evening, Mama. How are you and Papa?" "We're managing," Mama sighed. "Things are hard, you know. The market is dry. Even food is now gold. How's work?" Amara took a deep breath. "That's what I wanted to talk about. I lost my job." There was a pause, long enough for the truth of her words to settle. She could almost hear Mama's breathing quicken on the other end. "You lost your job. Oh, God forbid. What happened?" "They said they were downsizing. I've been looking for something else, but for now I don't know how I'll manage rent. I might have to move out of my apartment soon." The silence that followed wasn't sympathy. It was calculation. Then Mama's voice came, thin and trembling, but not from grief. "Ah, that means there will be no money this month?" Amara closed her eyes. "Mama, I just said I lost my job." I know, Mama said quickly. "But you know your father is still recovering from his stress. And your brother's school contributions. And my market people are pressing me for payment." Amara said nothing. She just listened, to the panic rising, not because her daughter was suffering, but because her daughter could no longer pay. Then Papa's voice entered the line, stern and booming. "What's this I'm hearing, Amara? You lost your job. How? Were you careless? How can a responsible woman allow that to happen? You're disgracing this family." Her throat tightened. "Papa, I didn't do anything wrong. They let many of us go." He snorted. "So now you expect us to suffer because of your carelessness? Do you know how people see me in this village? They call me the father of the nurse from Abuja. Now what will I tell them?" Amara couldn't speak. The silence stretched between them, wide, cold, final. Finally she whispered, "I just needed someone to talk to." Papa's tone softened only slightly. Anyway, pray harder. Maybe God will have mercy." Then the line went dead. Amara sat there, staring at her phone. Her chest felt hollow, a wound she could no longer bleed from. In that moment she understood. Their love was conditional, their pride transactional, and her worth, measured only in naira. 3 days later her phone rang again. It was Mama, crying. "Amara, your father has been arrested." Amara sat up instantly. "Arrested? For what?" Mama's voice cracked with hysteria. "It's over some borrowed money. He took a small loan for the land issue, and now the police have carried him. They said they'll keep him till we pay 100,000 naira. Please, my daughter, we need your help again." Amara didn't answer immediately. Her heart was racing, not with panic, but with suspicion. She remembered the last lie, the fake collapse, the crocodile tears. She spoke carefully. "Where is he being held?" "In Umuoma police station." "Please don't delay." "I'll call you back," Amara said, cutting the line. Then she packed a small bag. She didn't tell anyone at work where she was going. By dawn, she was on a bus heading east, back to the village she had left months ago, carrying nothing but her exhaustion and her questions. The journey was long and dusty. The air grew thicker the farther she went from the city, and the sight of red earth made her chest tighten. By late afternoon, the bus pulled into the small park near her hometown. She didn't call ahead. She wanted to see the truth with her own eyes. As she walked through the narrow path leading to her family compound, she could already hear laughter. Men's laughter. Loud, unrestrained, filled with palm wine and pride. And there he was, Papa Ifani Nwosu, sitting under the mango tree with his friends, a calabash of palm wine in hand, boasting as usual. "I told that man," he was saying, "if not for my daughter, I would have been in big trouble. That girl is like gold, eh? Anything I ask, she provides." The men laughed and nodded. "You are blessed, Ifani. Some of us can't even get our sons to buy us salt." Papa laughed loudly. "Ah, that's because you didn't train your children well. Me, I invested. Now I'm reaping my harvest." Amara stood at the edge of the compound, trembling. The words felt like blows. When Papa finally saw her, the smile vanished from his face. He straightened in surprise. "Amara, what are you doing here?" Her voice was steady. "I came to see you, Papa. Mama said you were in police custody." The men fell silent. Papa's eyes darted to them, embarrassed. "Ah, that one. It was just a misunderstanding. You know your mother, she exaggerates things." Amara stepped closer, her voice rising slightly. "So you're not arrested. You're sitting here drinking palm wine while I was worrying myself to death." Papa frowned. "Lower your voice. This is not Abuja. You don't talk to your father like that here." Mama appeared from inside the house, wrapping her head tie nervously. "Amara, calm down. We didn't want to stress you. It was all just a small matter." Amara's laughter came out hollow. "A small matter? You told me he was arrested." "You cried again, Mama. You said you needed 100,000 Nigerian nairas for bail." The neighbors had begun to gather now, drawn by the raised voices. Papa stood, chest puffed out, anger rising. "You're talking to me like this? After all I've done for you? Is this the respect you bring from the city?" Amara's hands were shaking, but her eyes were cold. "Respect? You've turned me into your personal bank, Papa. Every story, every lie, it's always money. When I was a child you taught me that saying no meant I was bad. Now I see. You were just training me to serve your comfort." Gasps rippled through the small crowd. Mama began to cry, real tears now, though they no longer had power over Amara. "My daughter, please don't talk like this. We are your parents, even if we made mistakes." Amara turned to her, her voice breaking but firm. "Mistakes? You lied that Papa was dying. You lied about loans, hospitals, police. Do you know what that did to me? I've worked myself sick because of you. I've cried in empty rooms, thinking I was saving this family, but you were only saving your pride." Papa's face darkened. "Enough," he shouted. "Do you think you can talk to me like one of your patients? You've become arrogant because of small money." Then, in a flash of rage, his hand came up and struck her across the face. The sound was sharp, a slap that seemed to silence even the wind. The neighbors gasped. Mama screamed. But Amara did not cry. She simply stood there, her cheek burning, her eyes glistening, not with pain but with clarity. She looked at him for a long moment and said, quietly, "Now I have paid my debts in full." Then she turned and began to walk away. Mama fell to her knees, wailing, "Amara, come back. Don't leave us like this. Who will help us now?" Amara kept walking. Each step felt heavier and lighter at the same time, as if she were shedding chains with every stride. The ground was hot beneath her feet. She had kicked off her sandals somewhere in the chaos. The sun was low, golden and cruel, painting the village road in the color of endings. Behind her, Papa's voice called out, full of fury and pride and something like regret. But she didn't turn back. She walked until the compound was nothing but a memory behind her, until the air smelled of dust and freedom. Then, under the wide evening sky, Amara whispered to herself, "Love is not meant to hurt this way." And though her face still burned from her father's hand, her heart, for the first time, felt unshackled. She didn't know where she was going next, Abuja, Lagos, or maybe somewhere she could start over. But she knew this much. She would never again mistake sacrifice for love. A long, vivid, emotional conclusion to Amara's journey. It flows in the same reflective, cinematic African storytelling tone. Slow, detailed, and deeply human. Months passed. Not in a rush, but in the quiet rhythm of healing. One sunrise, one sigh, one heartbeat at a time. In Abuja, the city's noise no longer swallowed Amara whole. She had learned to live within it, not beneath it. Her mornings began with soft music instead of panic. Her nights ended with prayer instead of tears. She had found a new job, not as glamorous, not as well-paying, but peaceful. And for the first time in years, the money she earned stayed in her own account. She cooked small meals for herself. She walked home after work and sometimes bought roasted corn by the roadside, sharing brief laughter with the sellers. The ache of betrayal still lingered, like an old wound that twinged when the rain came, but it no longer defined her. Her parents had stopped calling. Not a single "How are you?" Not even a message for Christmas. Their silence was both a punishment and a relief. Yet sometimes on lonely nights, she would remember Mama's laugh before the lies, and Papa's proud eyes when she first wore her nurse's uniform. And her heart would soften, not enough to forget, but enough to mourn what could have been. Then one hot afternoon in June, the past came knocking again, not with voices this time, but with paper. Amara returned from work to find a white envelope slid under her door. It was from a bank, her old branch. She opened it absently, expecting a statement or promotion flyer. But as she read, her body stiffened. Her knees went weak. She read it again, then again. The letter stated that a loan had been taken 5 years ago, using her personal information and signature. The guarantor listed was none other than Mr. and Mrs. Ifeanyi Nwosu, her parents. Her breath caught in her throat. Oh, she had never signed any loan. She had never needed one. And yet, there it was, her name, her ID number, even her old address from nursing school. The paper trembled in her hand as realization dawned. They hadn't just lied for money. They had stolen her name. She sat on the floor for a long time, the envelope in her lap, the city humming indifferently outside her window. Tears came, slow, bitter, resigned. Not just for what they'd done, but for what she kept losing every time she tried to love them. The next morning she went to the bank. The manager, a soft-spoken woman in glasses, confirmed it. Yes, Miss Nwosu. The loan was taken in 2020 under your account. It appears to have defaulted after a few payments. We've traced the guarantors to your parents in Enugu State. Unfortunately, since it's in your name, you're legally responsible. Amara felt something break inside her. Not like glass, but like tired wood, splitting quietly after carrying too much weight. So what happens if I don't pay? She asked. The woman hesitated. They'll file a report. You could lose access to credit, or worse, be summoned for financial fraud. I'm sorry. Fraud. That word stung. She had worked so hard to build a clean life, only for her own parents to stain it. That evening, she sat in her room, staring at her reflection. Her eyes looked older. Her lips trembled with exhaustion. She wanted to scream, to call them and demand answers, but she didn't, because deep down she already knew. They hadn't done it to destroy her. They had done it because they thought she'd always clean up after them. Because in their minds, her success was theirs to spend. Her identity theirs to borrow. For days, she wrestled with herself. Anger against duty, resentment against compassion. She could report them. Let the law handle it. Let them feel what betrayal tastes like. But then she imagined the gossip in the village. The daughter called police on her parents. Children of nowadays have no respect. And she knew how that story would end. Not with justice, but with shame. So one evening, she opened her laptop and transferred the money. 1,280,000 Nigerian nairas. Gone. Not for them. Not anymore. But for herself, for her own peace, for her future, for her clean name. After the transfer, she sat quietly, letting the silence settle. No tears came. Only a calm, steady acceptance. She whispered to herself, I'm paying this not out of love, but to buy my freedom. And that night, she slept deeply, dreamlessly, like a woman finally laying down a burden she'd carried too long. Weeks turned into months again. The bank cleared her record. Her job stabilized. Her life slowly began to bloom. But something within her still needed closure. Not the kind that comes from confrontation, but from seeing the truth one last time. So one quiet Saturday, she boarded a bus and went home. The road was familiar but strange. The same red earth, the same trees leaning toward the sky. But everything looked smaller, faded, as if time itself had exhaled. When she reached the family compound, her heart clenched. The once lively house was silent. The courtyard weeds had grown waist-high. The mango tree under which Papa once boasted now stood lonely, its branches dry and broken. She stepped inside. The air smelled of dust and old regrets. In the small bedroom at the back, she found Mama, thinner, weaker, her eyes sunken but still bright with recognition. "Amara," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You came." Amara smiled faintly. "Yes, Mama. I came." Mama reached for her hand, her skin cold. "Your father, he's in the next room. He doesn't talk much anymore. Things have been hard since everything fell apart." Amara didn't ask for details, but Mama told her anyway, in bits and fragments between coughs and tears. The investment scheme Papa had bragged about had collapsed. The money they borrowed, including the loan in her name, vanished with it. Their friends mocked them. Their pride crumbled. And when the gossip started, Papa stopped going to the bar. He barely left the house. Amara listened quietly, not with vengeance, but with that strange calm that comes when the worst has already happened. When she entered the next room, Papa was sitting on a low stool, staring at the wall. His hair had grayed, his frame smaller. When he saw her, he didn't rise, just blinked in disbelief. "Amara," he said softly. "You came back." She nodded. "Yes, Papa." He looked down, his fingers trembling. After a long silence, he said, "We only wanted to feel important." Amara's throat tightened. It was not the apology she expected, but it was the truth, raw and pitiful. She walked closer, stood before him, and replied, "You wanted power, not love." He flinched slightly, then nodded, a slow, tired nod. Tears gathered in his eyes, but he said nothing more. And in that silence, Amara felt something uncoil in her chest. Not forgiveness in the soft, easy sense, but a release. A letting go. She knelt slowly, not in surrender but in peace. "I forgive you," she said quietly. "Not to forget what you did, but so that it no longer owns me." Papa wept. Mama wept from the doorway. And Amara, though her own tears fell, felt lighter than she had in years. That night, after she tucked her mother into bed, she sat by the window with her old journal, the one she'd carried since nursing school. The pages smelled of age and memory. She flipped to a blank sheet and began to write. Her handwriting was slow, steady. Parents teach children to respect them. But who teaches parents to respect their children? She paused, staring at the words, feeling their weight. Then she added, "Love without responsibility becomes greed, and forgiveness without wisdom becomes slavery." She closed the book gently, as if sealing an era. Outside, the night hummed with crickets and distant drums. The moonlight poured through the window, painting her face in silver. Amara looked up at the sky and whispered, "I've paid enough. Now I live for me." Her voice was soft but firm, a vow carried on the wind. She knew the scars would never disappear, but they no longer dictated her worth. She had rebuilt herself, piece by piece, from the ruins of other people's expectations. Tomorrow she would return to Abuja, to her small apartment, her quiet life, her own peace. And as the night deepened, she smiled, not because everything was perfect, but because she finally belonged to herself. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, drop a like, leave a comment with your favorite part, and share it with someone who loves great tales. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next journey into African folklore.